So, been a little while since I did my first video. You know, the world still had to go through its first lockdown, and the reason I've not really done a video in a while is because, honestly, I just didn't have the motivation. I could not be bothered. I had a script and everything ready, just couldn't get the camera and all that set up to do stuff. And with the knowledge of my last video, I do want to do some different things this time. This time I'm not really going with a script, I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head. With all that being said, today we're going to be looking at the Grey chapter. For those of you who don't know, this album was made for Paul Gray, who passed away. He was the previous bassist of Slipknot. So overall, this album is quite emotional. Probably their most emotional album they've ever done. Since it's been such a long time, let's just get into this. So, first song off the album, and as per usual with Slipknot, it's not quite a song, more of an introductory piece. And as far as they go, this one's probably the best out of all of them. It does a great job at immersing you in the overall atmosphere of this album, and the overall atmosphere is pretty grim. And the song is pretty grim itself, but it also has a somewhat inspirational kind of mantra to it. The overall song's quite short, as it's just an introductory piece, not really a full song. But like I said, this one's probably the best one they've made. I give this one about 7. So, first proper song off the album, and this is one you don't really hear too much people speaking about. So the song kind of transitions out of XIX and into this. And it kind of starts off with a slow melody before it starts kicking in. And it kicks in hard. This is a fast song. Like, faster than most of the songs on here, but definitely not the fastest. We'll definitely get to that. And it has some really badass lyrics too, and the drumming. I can't even imagine. Like, I've started to get into drumming a little bit, but I can't imagine playing this. The pain. Also, I had to look up how to pronounce sarcastrophe, because I've never heard anyone use that word before. I'm not even sure if it's a real word. I think Slipknot invented it. Overall, I'll give this song a 7.5. Better than a 7, but not quite an 8. So AOV. This song's probably one of my favorite songs off of the first half of the album. It's just as fast as sarcastrophe, but it's got much more anger and bitterness in it. I mean, you can really feel it's drenched the song in it. And overall, it helped me get through a situation that kind of fits the narrative of the song as well. The chorus is just so good, and the bridge with like the funky bass line, well, not quite funky, but you know, it's a bass line. You don't get much of that in Slipknot. And the drumming is just, I mean, I said it was fast in sarcastrophe. It's even faster in this, especially in the intro. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of stuff to say about this, but I give this song about an 8. The Devil and I. You know this song, I know this song, we all know this song. This is probably Slipknot's most well-known song, maybe other than Psychosocial. And I'll be honest, I've just heard this song so many times, I'm kind of tired of it. They played it every show when I was in high school. When the song was released, it was played everywhere. Even though I'm tired of it, I'll admit it's a pretty good song. It's got, you know, iconic riffs. The chorus is pretty iconic. It has a good atmosphere to it as well. It adds to the overall album, I think. And the riffs are pretty easy to play as well, as long as your guitar can tune down to it. Other than that, there's not a whole lot that kind of sticks out to me. I give the song about a 7. Like I said, I'm just tired of it. It would probably be higher if I haven't just heard it so many times. So here's the other single off of the album. It's not kind of my style that I'm into of Slipknot. It's a very soft, somber song for the most part. It's got really good bass though, and good percussion and drums in it. You know, people who aren't into the heavy side of Slipknot will probably really like this song, although they might not appreciate the ending. You know, it sounds like a classic love song, just maybe a bit more perverted. For this one, I really don't have a whole lot to say about it. I'll give it a 7. It's not terrible, not quite into it, but it's a fairly good song still. Out of every song on this album, this one is the most obvious about Paul. Every other song on this album is either about or has references to Paul. But this song, as I said, is the one that's most clearly about Paul. Which is a shame because there's not a whole lot of interesting stuff going on in the song. Other than the outro and the breakdown, which is pretty badass, and the chorus being pretty catchy, there's not a whole lot going on in this song. Nothing really sticks out to me, except for the stuff I previously mentioned. So with that stuff being mentioned, that's really the saving graces of the song, because the verses are kind of boring. There's not a whole lot that interests me in this song, so I'm going to give it a 6. Probably my least favorite song off of the entire album. So this is definitely the album's darkest track, I'd have to say. And it does a really good job adding to the darker atmosphere, especially in the first half. The second half things get a bit more heavy, but that first half is really dark. But during that second half, which is probably the part you're listening to, the guitar riffs are pretty heavy, pretty head-banging worthy. Ultimately, I give this song about an 8. It's got really good guitar riffs, the good atmosphere that adds to the album. So yeah, 8. A lot of people say that Snuff or Vermilion Part 2 is Slipknot's saddest songs. I disagree. I'd say this is by far Slipknot's most saddest, most emotional song. To the point where I can't really listen to it without shedding at least one single manly tear. Despite not really getting into Slipknot until about 2016, I'd say, so quite a while after Paul's death and like 2 years after this album was released, I still can't help but just feel like I miss Paul, even though I didn't know of his existence long after he was dead. I guess that's just that speaks of the greatness of this song, I guess. And it's quite a short song. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It starts off quite mellow, quite sad, and then it gets quite angry towards the end. And then it transitions into the next song. I feel kind of weird rating this song because it's a very personal song. I mean, all these songs have been quite personal, but this one is absolutely the most personal. I'd have to give it a 9, honestly. I'm not going to listen to it a lot because of I don't want to cry every single time I listen to it. But it's definitely one of those songs that really evokes emotions. It's one of those songs that really evokes emotions out of me, which is something I love in music, so I've got to give it a 9. So this is what I consider to be the most underrated track on this whole album. Like, you don't really hear much people speaking about this track, but I absolutely love it. Specifically the chorus. Everything else is pretty cool as well, but that chorus. But other than the chorus, it also has a really great guitar riff, it's great drumming. The guitar solo, I could probably never dream of being able to do. The lyrics are also pretty great as well. Honestly, I wish I could think of more things to say about the song, but I'm an idiot, so I can't think of anything to say right now. But I think I've got to give this song a 9 out of 10. I really like this song. I don't know why more people don't speak about it. I gotta give this a 9. I'll be honest, I kind of forgot this song existed for a while. It's just one of those things, when I think about this album, this song just kind of disappears from my mind. I think it's because it kind of has the same problem as Skeptic, where it's just not a very interesting song, although it's more interesting than Skeptic, I think. The chorus is much better. I think it has a really great chorus. The outro is also really great. The intro kind of teases like it could have been something different, but then it kind of heads straight into the verse head first, and it's just kind of another generic kind of sounding thing to me. The bridge is also pretty great, has a pretty good guitar solo in it, but overall it's just kind of a bit forgettable, I think. I gotta give this one about a 7. So, from one of the more forgettable songs to probably the most memorable song off this album. While I'd say AOV has some of the more aggressive lyrics in the entire album, I'd say this song is is the most aggressive song. Like, everything in this just sounds pissed off. It almost kind of goes back in time to Iowa. Like, it sounds like it really could have come off of that album. This song is seriously just unrelentingly fast. I really don't have a whole lot much more to say about it other than it's fast, it's heavy, it's angry, it's a really good Slipknot song. I gotta give this a 9. I feel like it could come close to a 10, but I'm just not feeling it, so I'm giving it a 9. So now for the spookiest track off the whole album. What can I say other than this song is just really trying to go for the spooks. It's another short transitional piece, although I think it's one of the better ones. Not a whole lot to it, just some spooky sounds, some spooky voices, and it transitions into the next song. And honestly, I kind of find it hard to separate the two. For me, they kind of go hand in hand. That's it, really. Just another short transitional piece, although one of the better ones. I'm going to give this one a 7. The negative one. This is my absolute favorite track off of the entire album. It hits so damn hard. It has a really good intro. Like I said, kind of Be Prepared for Hell in transitions really well into this one. Can be almost kind of hard to tell the cutoff point. The song really gets you in the mood with that short, spooky intro before it kicks in hard. And this song has really great guitar riffs. I mean, I'm a sucker for bends, really. And this song has bends in spades. And this song is just as fast as Custer, maybe a little bit slower, but the reason I like this more than Custer is with Custer, when I'm listening to that, I mainly just hear the drums, the guitar, and then obviously the vocals. But with this, you really hear more of Craig's sampling and Sid's DJing. And my absolute favorite part of the track is in the bridge when it's kind of going back and forth between the backup vocals and Corey. It's just great. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite track off the album. 10 out of 10 from me. So now for the final track of the album. I feel like an album like this, with the themes and grim and dark atmosphere it was going for, with, you know, the themes of death and grief and all the emotions that come with that. I feel like the album needed a song like this for the final song. And it really is such an interesting and intricate song. Like, it's constantly evolving as you listen to it. It'll build itself up, then break itself down before it ultimately reaches the climax at the bridge, before it starts to slowly descend again back into the same somber energy it started with. I feel like the percussion adds a lot to this song with the deep bass drums in the verses and the little keg kind of hits you here there. Yeah, I feel like this is just another amazing song, really. It's such an interesting song as well, and a great final song. I give this another 10. Except, If Rain's What You Want isn't really the final song. You see, there's a special edition of the album, and with that special edition are 2 extra songs. I don't fully understand why they would have done this. I suppose it could fit the theme of just when you think it's all over, all these emotions start to come back. That's really the only reason I can understand why they do something like this. But on to the song anyways. When I first heard this song, I wasn't a huge fan of it. It seemed kind of bland to me. But the more I listened to it, the more I really started to dig it. The chorus is pretty great. The guitar riffs at the beginning are a bit bland, but I feel like the song really shines in the bridge and the outro. That's where shit starts to get good. Also with this song and the next song, the lyrics are really interesting and really gives you a bit of an insight into Corey's mind at the time. But yeah, you don't really hear too much people speaking about this in the next song, probably because it was a special edition, so maybe not too many people even know it even exists. I give this about an 8. It's a pretty good song that I feel like maybe not too many people even know exists. So now for the true final song. And when I said that Lech was the darkest track off this album, I may have lied for dramatic effect. This is without a doubt for me the most darkest and most personal song off the whole album. If someone was to ask me what depression and grief sounded like in the format of a song, I'd show them this. For me, there's not really any standout performances, but I'd say that the lyrics and the tone of the song definitely make up for it. However, I'd say that If Rain Is What You Want is probably a better final song. To me, it's just a much more interesting and, like I said, dynamic song. However, this does give it a bit more of a grim and bleak ending, really. But both songs are very different. The song's much heavier and, like I said, just much more bleak. It doesn't paint a pretty picture. For me, this song is probably about an 8 out of 10. So that is the entirety of Point 5, the Grey Chapter. Well, technically there are 2 more tracks. They're more of hidden secret tracks, though. They're not really actual songs or anything meaningful. I might play one of them during this outro, though. But yeah, I'd say this is a great album. It takes you on a bit of an emotional roller coaster with a lot of somber, soft songs and a lot of hard, fast songs. If you're going to listen to the entire album, I would recommend listening to the special edition. Those 2 final songs, Override and The Burden, do add a lot to the album. Although, like I said, If Rain Is What You Want, I'd say that's a better final song. They do 2 very different things. If Rain Is What You Want is a much more somber, gentle song for the most part. But with The Burden, it's pretty dark and heavy throughout the whole way. Although I would say that The Burden is a bit more climactic of a song. My top 5 songs off the album is probably The Negative One, then If Rain Is What You Want, Nomadic, Cluster, then AOV. It was kind of a sad thing to see this era come to an end. That's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next video.